The last defender. The void of space seemed to swallow the HSS Defiant whole as it drifted silently in the shadow of a frozen asteroid belt. Inside the bridge, Commander Maya Chen stared at the holographic display, the blue light casting harsh shadows across her weathered face. 6 months of running. 6 months since Earth fell to the Xenari Collective. 6 months of being the last human warship still fighting. Status report. Maya's voice broke the somber silence on the bridge. Lieutenant Ravi Kapoor looked up from his console, dark circles under his eyes betraying the crew's exhaustion. Fuel reserves at 31%, Commander. Life support stable, but cooling systems are struggling. We've got maybe 2 more jumps before we're stranded. Maya nodded, her gaze never leaving the tactical display, showing the vast expanse of Xenari territory that now engulfed what had once been human space. The collective had seemed peaceful at first, offering technological exchange and mutual defense when they arrived at the edges of human territory. No one suspected their true nature until it was too late. "And our payload?" she asked. "The Nova weapon is stable," Ravi replied, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Engineering says the modifications are complete." The Nova weapon, humanity's last-ditch defensive project, never deployed, never tested outside simulation. A theoretical doomsday device designed to disrupt the quantum entanglement fields that the Xenari depended on for their hive mind consciousness. One shot, one chance to strike at the heart of their entire empire. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Elena Torres, her fingers dancing across her console. "I've decrypted more of the transmissions we intercepted from the Xenari command node." Maya moved to her station, placing a hand on the back of Elena's chair. "Show me." The screen flickered to life with streams of alien data, translated into human-readable text. "They're planning something big. All their warships are being recalled to the Nexus, their central command station. Some kind of celebration or ceremony." "When?" Maya's voice sharpened. 36 hours from now." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Nexus, the most heavily defended installation in Xenari space, but also the central node of their hive consciousness. If they could reach it, if they could deploy the Nova weapon there. "Plot a course," Maya ordered, standing straight. "We're going to the Nexus." Chief Engineer Darius Kane's voice came over the comm, his Scottish accent more pronounced with stress. "Commander, with all due respect, that's suicide. The Defiant wasn't built for that kind of infiltration. We're a tactical strike vessel, not a stealth ship." Maya pressed a button on the console. "All senior officers to the war room. Now." The war room was cramped, designed for a crew twice their current size. The faces around the table reflected the grim reality of their situation. They were the last remnants of Earth's once proud fleet. Maya activated the central hologram, displaying the Xenari Nexus, a massive space station shaped like a 12-pointed star, surrounded by defense platforms and patrol vessels. "Intelligence suggests the collective is vulnerable during their unification ceremony," Maya began. "Their consciousness becomes hyper-focused, drawing energy from throughout their network to enhance their shared mind. We have a window, perhaps 2 minutes, where their outer defenses will be operating at minimal capacity. 2 minutes to slip past their entire defense grid." Security Chief Layan Wei shook his head. "Even if we could, they'd detect us the moment we emerged." Maya's eyes hardened. "Not if we're already inside their security perimeter before the ceremony begins." She tapped the display, zooming in on a massive formation of vessels approaching the Nexus. "This is their second fleet returning from the Arcturus sector. We've analyzed their communication protocols and transponder signatures. With the right modifications, we might be able to mask ourselves within their formation." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "I know what you're thinking," Maya continued. "The odds are astronomical. But consider the alternative. We run until our fuel depletes, then we die quietly, and humanity becomes nothing more than a footnote in Xenari history." Ravi leaned forward. "The Nova weapon, even if we deploy it successfully, We've never tested it. We don't know if it will work. The simulations show a 78% chance of success, Maya replied. If it works, it will sever the connection between every Xenari ship and colony in this sector. Their entire command structure will collapse. And if it fails? Elena asked quietly. Maya met her gaze steadily. Then at least we die fighting. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of their decision. Finally, Chief Engineer Kane spoke. It would take extensive modifications to our transponder systems. We'd need to reconfigure the outer hull to absorb their scanning frequencies. Not impossible, but... He trailed off, calculating. We'd have to shut down life support on decks 3 through 6 to divert enough power. Do it, Maya ordered. We have 36 hours to become Xenari. The next day passed in a blur of feverish activity. The Defiant transformed under Kane's expert direction, its human signatures masked beneath layers of falsified Xenari frequencies. The Nova weapon, a sleek cylindrical device no larger than a torpedo, was loaded into the primary launch tube, its unstable core pulsing with an eerie blue light. Maya walked the corridors of her ship, watching her crew work with a determination that bordered on desperation. They knew the odds. They knew this was likely their final mission. Yet they worked with purpose, with hope. The last defenders of humanity refusing to go quietly into the night. In her quarters, Maya opened a small locket. Inside, a hologram of her family on Earth. Her husband David, their daughter Lynn. She had no illusions about their fate after the Xenari invasion. The aliens didn't take prisoners. They simply processed captured populations, integrating useful genetic material into their collective and discarding the rest. "We're coming for you," she whispered to the hologram before closing it and returning it to her pocket. The final hours before the mission ticked away. The crew gathered in the mess hall for what might be their final meal together. There were no grand speeches, no hollow promises of victory or survival. Instead, they shared stories of Earth, of home, of the humanity they fought to avenge. Maya sat among them, listening, memorizing each face. These were her people now, her family. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Approaching Xenari Patrol Zone, Ravi announced, his voice tight with tension. "Second Fleet is 12 minutes from our intercept point." Maya nodded, settling into the commander's chair. The bridge was operating on minimal power, the lights dimmed to reduce their energy signature. Battle stations. Initiate stealth protocols. The Defiant's engines powered down to a whisper, its systems running on the barest minimum to maintain their disguise. They drifted toward the massive formation of Xenari vessels, returning from their conquest of human colonies. Transmitting falsified identification now, Elena reported. Transponder signals matching Xenari patrol vessel designations. Minutes stretched like hours as they approached the fleet. On the view screen, the alien ships came into view. Massive, organic-looking vessels, with hulls that seemed to pulse with an inner light. The Xenari ships didn't rely on conventional engines. They manipulated gravitational fields directly, moving with an eerie grace that human technology couldn't match. "They're scanning us," Ravi warned, sweat beading on his forehead. Maya gripped the arms of her chair. "Hold steady. Remember your training." The Defiant slipped into the formation, a wolf among sheep. Their modified hull absorbed the Xenari scans, reflecting back the expected signatures. 1 minute passed. 2, 3. "We're clear," Elena whispered, almost afraid to break the tension. They'd registered us as escort vessel XK-419, reporting minor damage from an asteroid collision. They directed us to the outer repair dock at the Nexus. A collective exhale swept through the bridge. "Perfect," Maya said, allowing herself a small smile. "That puts us exactly where we need to be. Now we wait." The Defiant moved with the fleet, surrounded by enemies who had no idea that the last human warship was hiding in plain sight among them. Ahead, the massive structure of the Nexus grew larger on their view screens, a monument to Xenari power and the grave of human civilization. Unless Maya and her crew could change that. Unless one ship, against impossible odds, could turn the tide of a war that humanity had already lost. As they approached the massive space station, Maya's hand drifted to the locket in her pocket. "For Earth," she whispered. "For all of us." The Defiant continued its silent approach, surrounded by the enemy, carrying humanity's last hope. The first phase of their desperate plan was complete. Now came the hard part, striking at the heart of the empire that had destroyed their world. Turning the tide. The repair dock of the Exenari Nexus loomed before them, a cavernous structure designed to service hundreds of vessels simultaneously. Massive mechanical arms extended outward, ready to grasp incoming ships and guide them to their designated berths. The Defiant approached slowly, maintaining its disguise as damaged escort vessel XK-419. "Multiple Xenari vessels entering our scanner range," Ravi reported, his voice low. "Including 3 dreadnoughts. The ceremony must be drawing their highest-ranking commanders." Maya studied the tactical display, noting the positions of each enemy vessel. "Time until the unification ceremony begins." 17 minutes, Commander," Elena replied. "The energy readings from the Nexus are already fluctuating. They're beginning the preliminary consciousness synchronization." "Perfect." Maya turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Zakeller. "Status of the Nova weapon." "Armed and ready, Commander. Targeting systems locked on the central hub of the Nexus. We'll only get one shot at this." Maya nodded, her expression grim. "Once we deploy the Nova weapon, our disguise will be useless. We'll have seconds at most before they realize what's happening." Chief Engineer Kane's voice came over the comm. "Commander, I've modified our shield generators to produce a localized disruption field. It should protect us from the initial quantum backlash when the Nova detonates. Can't say how long it'll hold, though." "It doesn't need to hold long," Maya replied. "Just long enough." The Defiant continued its approach, now within the outer security perimeter of the Nexus. Around them, Xenari vessels moved in precise formation, their hulls pulsing with increasing intensity as the ceremony drew near. "Receiving docking instructions," Elena announced. "They're directing us to repair Bay 47G. "Acknowledge but delay," Maya ordered. "Tell them we're experiencing propulsion instability. We need to make a manual approach." As Elena transmitted their false report, Maya turned to the navigation officer. "Lieutenant Park, plot a course that will bring us within firing range of the central hub, but make it look like we're struggling with controls." "Aye, Commander." Park's fingers danced across his console. "Course plotted. We'll drift past 3 security checkpoints, but if our disguise holds, they should just see a damaged ship on its way to repairs." The minutes ticked by as the Defiant slowly moved through the massive complex. Through the viewports, they could see the alien structure of the Nexus up close. Not metal or conventional materials, but some kind of semi-organic compound that seemed to pulse with life itself. Energy readings spiking, Ravi reported suddenly. "The ceremony is beginning ahead of schedule." Maya's eyes narrowed. "How long until peak synchronization?" 3 minutes, maybe less. They've accelerated the process. "Adjust course. Lieutenant Park, get us into position now." The Defiant's engines flared briefly, abandoning the pretense of a damaged approach. They needed to reach firing position before the brief window of vulnerability closed. "We're being hailed," Elena called out, tension evident in her voice. "They're asking why we've changed course." "Ignore it," Maya ordered. "Weapons, prepare to fire the Nova on my mark." The massive central hub of the Nexus was now directly ahead, a pulsing sphere of energy that served as the focal point for the Xenari hive mind. Around it, thousands of tendrils extended outward, connecting to every part of the station and beyond, to every Xenari vessel and colony in the sector. "They've detected us," Ravi shouted. "Defense platforms powering up." The first shots from the Xenari defense grid streaked past the Defiant, narrowly missing. The element of surprise was gone. But they were so close. "Shields up," Maya commanded. "All power to forward deflectors. Lieutenant Heller, fire the Nova weapon." The torpedo bay doors opened, and the sleek cylinder of the Nova weapon launched, streaking toward the central hub. For a heartbeat, Maya allowed herself to hope. Then disaster struck. Axonari Interceptor appeared from behind a docking arm, directly in the path of the Nova. The torpedo struck the smaller vessel, detonating prematurely in a blinding flash of blue-white energy. "No," Maya slammed her fist on the armrest. "Status report. The Nova detonated too far from the hub," Ravi reported, frantically analyzing the readings. "It disrupted some of the outer connection nodes, but the central consciousness remains intact. And they know we're here now." Alarms blared as the Defiant rocked under enemy fire. The Axonari defense grid had locked onto them, and dozens of weapons platforms now targeted the lone human vessel. "Shields at 64% and falling," Lieutenant Wei called out. "We can't withstand this barrage for long." Maya's mind raced, searching for options. The mission had failed. Their one weapon, their one chance to strike at the heart of the Axonari, gone. But something nagged at her mind. The readings after the Nova's detonation. "Ravi, show me the energy distribution from the Nova blast," she ordered. The tactical display shifted, showing a cascade of disrupted energy nodes spreading from the point of detonation. The Nova had failed to reach its target, but it had still affected the outer systems of the Nexus. The quantum entanglement field, it's destabilized in sectors 7 through 12, Maya observed. That's where they house their primary communication relays. Understanding dawned on her face. They're vulnerable. Not their consciousness, but their ability to coordinate their defense grid. "Chief Kane." "Aye, Commander." Kane's voice crackled through the comm. "The old Earth EMP warheads we have in storage, can you modify them to match the resonance frequency of the Nova's disruption field?" A pause. "Theoretically, yes. But they wouldn't be powerful enough to affect the central hub." "We don't need to hit the hub anymore," Maya replied, a new plan forming. "We need to hit their communication relays while they're vulnerable. If we can cut off the defense grid from central control, they'll default to automated responses," Kane finished, catching on. "Much less effective, much more predictable. How quickly can you modify the warheads?" 10 minutes, maybe less." Another impact rocked the ship. "Shields at 41%, Wei reported. "You have 5 minutes, Maya said. "Lieutenant Park, evasive maneuvers. Get us behind one of those maintenance platforms. We need cover." The Defiant veered sharply, diving beneath a massive docking arm as enemy fire pursued them. The ship shuddered with each near miss, systems straining under the pressure. "What's the plan, Commander?" Elena asked, struggling to maintain her station as the ship bucked beneath her. Maya activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is Commander Chen. Our first strike failed, but we've identified a new opportunity. The Axonari Nexus is experiencing communication disruptions from our Nova weapon. If we can exploit this vulnerability, we can still accomplish our mission. Stand by for high maneuvers and prepare for multiple weapons deployments." She turned to her weapons officer. "Lieutenant Heller, I want all conventional weapons ready. Once Kane delivers the modified EMPs, we're going to hit every communication relay simultaneously. That would require precise targeting of at least 7 different locations," Heller replied, skepticism evident in his voice. "Even if we could get clear shots, we don't have enough launch tubes to deploy that many warheads at once." Maya's expression hardened. "Then we'll make multiple passes." "Commander," Ravi interjected, "the Axonari are already adapting to the disruption. We have maybe 12 minutes before their systems recalibrate." Another hit rocked the ship. "Shields at 32%, Wei reported. Maya made her decision. "Lieutenant Park, set course for Relay Station Alpha. Lieutenant Heller, target all weapons on that station. We'll destroy them one by one if we have to." The Defiant emerged from cover, engines flaring as it charged toward the first relay station. Xenari vessels converged on their position, but the human ship was smaller, more agile, designed for hit-and-run tactics against larger foes. Engineering to bridge, Kane's voice came over the comm. First modified EMP ready for deployment. Load it, Maya ordered. Fire as soon as we're in range. The Defiant streaked toward the first relay station, dodging enemy fire. When they were almost on top of it, Heller fired the modified EMP warhead. It struck the relay station directly, detonating in a pulse of energy that caused the entire structure to go dark. Direct hit, Heller reported. Relay Alpha is offline. 1 down, 6 to go, Maya said grimly. But their success had drawn more attention. Xenari vessels converged from all directions, their weapons focusing on the lone human ship that dared to attack the heart of their empire. Shields at 18%, Y warned. Critical failure imminent. Maya's mind raced. They couldn't survive long enough to hit all 7 relay stations individually. They needed something else, something unexpected. Her eyes fell on the engineering readout. The Defiant's main reactor was operating at 93% capacity. If they pushed it beyond safety limits. Chief Kane, she called. If we overloaded the main reactor, could we generate an EMP pulse large enough to hit multiple relay stations simultaneously? A lengthy pause. Aye, Commander. But that would mean sacrificing the ship. The core wouldn't survive that kind of power surge. Maya took a deep breath. Could the escape pods clear the blast radius? If launched immediately before detonation, possibly. Another hit rocked the ship. Shields failing, Wei announced. Hull breach on deck 4. Maya stood from her chair. All hands, this is Commander Chen. Prepare for emergency evacuation. Report to your designated escape pods. This is not a drill. She turned to her bridge crew. Set autopilot for the center of the relay network. Rig the reactor for remote detonation. Commander, Elena began. That's an order, Lieutenant. Everyone off the bridge. Now. Her officers hesitated for only a moment before complying, moving swiftly to their evacuation stations. Maya remained at her post, inputting the final commands. Ravi lingered at the doorway. Commander, the autopilot's damaged. Someone will have to pilot manually to reach the optimal position. Maya nodded without looking up. I know. Now go, Lieutenant. That's an order. Ravi's face fell as understanding dawned. It's been an honor serving with you, Commander. The honor was mine, Maya replied softly. Now make sure our people survive to tell the story. After Ravi left, Maya sat alone on the bridge, guiding the damaged Defiant toward the heart of the Xenari relay network. Around her, the ship was emptying as the crew rushed to the escape pods. On her tactical display, she could see the pods launching, small and stealthy compared to the Defiant itself, easily overlooked amid the chaos of battle. Computer, status of evacuation, Maya asked. Evacuation 97% complete, the ship's AI responded. All remaining personnel are in transit to evacuation points. Maya nodded, satisfied. She checked the reactor status, already climbing past safety parameters, energy building toward the catastrophic overload that would generate the massive EMP pulse. The Defiant shuddered as more enemy fire struck its unshielded hull. Systems failed across the board, but Maya kept the ship on course, heading directly for the central point between the 6 remaining relay stations. For Earth, she whispered. For humanity. When the Defiant reached the perfect position, Maya initiated the final sequence. The reactor overload built rapidly, energy readings spiking beyond anything the ship was designed to handle. In her final moments, Maya opened her locket one last time, looking at the faces of her family. We did it, she told them. We fought back. The Defiant's reactor detonated in a blinding flash that expanded outward in a massive electromagnetic pulse, far more powerful than anyone had anticipated. The pulse swept across the nexus, striking all 6 remaining relay stations simultaneously. As the Xenari communication network collapsed, their defense grid fell into disarray. automated systems firing randomly without central coordination. The human escape pods, small and virtually undetectable amid the chaos, slipped away from the Nexus, carrying the survivors of the Defiant to safety. 3 months later, Lieutenant Ravi Kapoor stood before the leaders of the human resistance on Proxima Centauri IV, the last human colony still fighting against Xenari occupation. Commander Chen's sacrifice changed everything, he explained, displaying tactical data on the holographic projector. The destruction of the Nexus Relay Network created a cascading failure throughout the Xenari collective consciousness. Without their perfect communication, their ships and colonies became isolated, vulnerable. "And you're certain this vulnerability persists?" asked General Williams, leader of the resistance forces. "Yes, sir. Our intelligence indicates that the Xenari are still struggling to rebuild their network. Their ships are operating independently, using conventional communication methods. They're strong individually, but they've lost the perfect coordination that made them unstoppable." "Then we have a chance," Williams said, looking at the strategic display showing Xenari forces in disarray across multiple sectors. "One ship, one brave commander gave humanity the opening we needed." Ravi nodded. "Commander Chen always said that humans have one advantage the Xenari could never understand. We don't need a hive mind to work together. Our strength comes from our individuality, our ability to think independently while still fighting for a common cause." Around the table, the resistance leaders nodded in agreement. "Then let's make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain," General Williams declared. "Prepare the fleet. Operation Phoenix begins now." As the meeting ended, Ravi stepped outside the bunker, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the war was turning. Humanity was fighting back, reclaiming lost territory, inspiring rebellion on occupied worlds. All because one ship, the last defender of Earth, had refused to surrender. The legend of the HSS Defiant and Commander Maya Chen spread throughout human space and beyond, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The story of how one ship, against impossible odds, had struck the first blow against an invincible enemy. How one desperate act of courage had turned the tide of a war that humanity had already lost. The fight was far from over, but for the first time since the fall of Earth, humanity had hope. And in the end, that was Commander Chen's greatest victory, not just the damage she inflicted on the enemy, but the spark she ignited in the hearts of those who continued the fight. One ship, one crew, one moment of defiance that changed the course of history.